Hello everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Cracking CBAP Certification, Smarter Approach. I'm your host, Mariah Weiss, and on behalf of IIBA, thanks for joining us today. Today's webinar is a public event. It is designed to deliver practical resources for you as you continue to grow your skill set and deliver value within your organization. When you join IIBA, you become a member of an international association dedicated to developing and promoting the business analysis profession. Your IIBA membership gives you access to a vibrant BA community and resources to support your development and career growth. If you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the Questions tab in your control panel. IIBA is a not-for-profit professional association serving the growing field of business analysis, and our goal is to unite a community of professionals to create better business outcomes. As a global thought leader and voice of the business analysis community, IIBA works to maintain global standards for the ongoing development of the practice and certifications. This webinar is brought to you by our IIBA sponsor, Techcanvass. Techcanvass is an information technology certifications training organization for professionals. They offer internationally recognized certifications in the fields of business analysis and project management. Founded by IT professionals, they are committed to make learning a more practical, goal-oriented, and structured exercise. They also provide consulting services in business analysis. We would like to thank Techcanvass for supporting IIBA and the business analysis community. I would also like to introduce our presenter from Techcanvass, Satish Satilasilan. Satish is a CBAP certified senior business analyst with over 10 years of experience working on large system implementation process across verticals like core banking, telecommunication, global mobility solutions, and software license management. He has worked with multiple Fortune 500 clients and has exceptional interest and knowledge in business processes and possesses the ability to understand the chain of events, both on a process level as well as a technical level. Without further ado, I'll swap this presentation over to Satish.
Thank you, Maurice, for the introduction. Hello and welcome you all, guys. So I can see around 130 odd plus folks. So I do believe the reason why you are attending this webinar is that like you're planning or you're planning to give the certification CCBA or CBAP. So let's get started. So the agenda for this session, as the name of the webinar says, right, the smarter way to approach the certification CCBA and CBAP. I don't know how many of you folks, so let me share my screen. So just give me a second. So before we begin, just wanted to give you an introduction about Techcanvass, who is sponsoring this webinar. So Techcanvass is an organization in India who primarily concentrates on providing the BA related certifications like CCBA, CBAP, CBDA, and also domain related certification if you want to learn about banking domain, and even they also provide trainings on PMP and analytics. And so that's all about Techcanvass. So you can check out the Techcanvass site in order to know their offerings. They provide both classroom and online class programs. So to get started, over the next 1 hour, we'll be discussing about the certification CCBA and CBAP and how you have to approach it. So let me give a background. So I completed my CCBA in the year 2016 and CBAP recently in the year 2020. So with that experience, I'm here to present what worked for me, what did not work for me. And over the course of the next close to 2 years, I mean, right from 2019 onwards, I'm like observing what is happening in the CBAP preparation phase and everything. And I've talked to so many folks, so many aspirants, CBAP aspirants, like what worked for them, what did not work and everything. And I've individually trained close to 300 folks. I mean, 300 plus aspirants I have trained. And in that, close to 60 folks have completed the certification. Other folks are still preparing for the certification. So I know that like what works for one person, what doesn't work for one person. So over this next 1 hour, my intention is to help you demystify all those questions and queries you have related to the CBAP or CCBA preparation. And before we begin, I don't know how many of you guys checked out the certification registry, which is there in the IIBA website. So as of April 30, 2021, We have 2000 and 2400 folks who are certified in CCBA and 14,500 folks who are certified in CBAP. So as a business analyst, the only certification that is recognized by the industry is CCBA or CBAP. Because if you see, once you cross from 5 years or 6 years of experience, you can see in any of the job description, you can see that like IIBA certification is a plus. So you may have CSM, CSPO, or any kind of certificate, but relevant BA certification is always CCBA or CBAP. So definitely you need to have this credential in your resume. So now with that introduction, I do believe most of you guys would have gone through like what typically experience level, or like unlike other examinations, you need to comply with some certain minimum requirements in order to sit for this examination. So it's not that like fresh out of college you can give this exam. Fresh out of college you can go for ECBA, but for in order to give CCBA and CBAP, IIBA wants you to know something about business analysis. So that's the reason for CCBA you need around minimum 3 years of experience, and for CBAP you need to have minimum 5 years of experience, because this certification is something that will come under the earned category. What do you mean by earned category? You cannot just simply mug up and you clear it, and I mean you attend 2 days training, and at the end of the day there will be some 30 odd questions, you write it, you clear it. This is not that type of commodity certification. IIBA certification is something you will have to study it, and then you will have to prepare die hard, and then you'll have to give the examination, and once you clear this examination you will have that feeling of that like I earned this certification. So that's the reason you will see that IIBA is focusing on 3 years experience and 5 years experience category, right? They want that like only the best out of the business analyst. They want only those folks to appear for this examination. So I do believe you guys would have checked out the IIBA website to find out your eligibility, because the reason why I'm concentrating on this application process is because overall your certification process, the application process is the top 10%. You need to calculate your hours, and in that 6 knowledge areas you need to know that like how to allocate your hours there, because there are so many conditions you need to comply with. Like out of 6 knowledge areas, 4 knowledge areas you need to clock around 1,500 hours. You need to show that. So the first important step, if you guys are pondering about giving the certification, is that check your eligibility. Minimum 3 years, go for CCBA. If you have more than 5 years, then go for CBAP. And you need to definitely attend a training program, because as you can see, for CCBA you need to have 21 hours of PD hours, and for CBAP you need to have 35 hours of PD hours. It can be online or you can attend classroom training, so it is at your convenience. You can decide, and the training which you choose, it has to be a IIBA accredited training agency. So you cannot do a training on your own or training from your mentor, nothing of that sort. You'll have to do it from IIBA. Has a set of empaneled vendors. You will have to find out like which all vendors will be able to give you that PDU hours, and you will have to check that. And other than that, for CBAP, you need to provide references of your supervisors, or maybe you can also provide a references of somebody who has already cleared CBAP. So those all things are there. So first thing, you will have to take the IIBA membership, and second thing, you will have to fill the application form. And once you fill the application form, and if your application form is accepted by IIBA, then you will be given a 1 year timeline. So within 1 year, you can take the examination at your own convenience. And before 2020, even before the COVID, you have to go to PSN test center and give the examination. And from Jan 2020 onwards, things changed. IIBA brought this proctored examination concept. Now you are provided with two options. Either you can go to the test center, or you can take it from the comfort of your home. So that choice is there. So once your application gets approved, all you have is 1 year. Within 1 year, you can schedule the examination. So that's all about the application process. Now, let's talk about the BABOK. So the only book that is needed for you to prepare, or in order to ace the certification, is BABOK. You need not rely on any other guide, or you need not, I mean, there are so many dumps that are floating around in the internet. Please don't waste your time downloading those materials, because none of the question will come from that dumps and everything. The only book which you will have to read A to Z is BABOK version 3. So there is also BABOK version 2. Earlier, maybe 2015-16, the questions were based out of BABOK version 2. But now if you are preparing for the certification, please check whether you're using the latest version, which is BABOK version 3. All the questions from for both CCBA and CBAP will be from the book only. The IIBA never ask you a question which is out of the context or out of the syllabus. Any question, scenario based question, case study based questions, or direct questions, everything, there will be a reference on that concept in BABOK. So please don't waste your time reading from any external materials. The reason why I'm stressing that point is once you try to read from the external materials, you will not be able to connect the dots, because the way how BABOK is written, all the 6 knowledge areas, everything is interconnected. So it all starts with strategy analysis, and then from strategy analysis you will have to come to BAPM, elicitation, requirement lifecycle management, and requirement analysis and design, and then solution evaluation. So only when you go in that flow, you will be able to connect the dots. And let me give you I mean, what I get to hear from many folks: the BABOK is too boring. The same word project and stakeholder is getting repeated multiple times. I'm feeling lost every time when I read BABOK. So I'll be answering how to ace that, or like how to get rid of that thought, right? Because many folks, first they get overwhelmed by seeing the number of pages in the book, 600 odd pages or 500 odd pages. How should I go through every page? So I'll not be able to remember everything. You need not remember anything. This is not exam certification that tests your intelligence skills, nothing of that sort. So lot of myths, and like you may have your own inhibitions to start your preparation. So over the, and maybe I'll be addressing all of it one by one. So I believe most of you guys know what is Pareto principle. So Pareto principle, when you put any effort, you need to know where to put that effort, right? 80-20 rule. So the first thing which you guys need to know is the weightage of the questions that can come on the actual examination. So to an extent, not, or I'll not say 100%, but to an extent, this is what IIBA has given you, that like 30% of the questions will come from one particular chapter, which is RADD for CBAP. Even for CCBA, it is around 28 odd percent. So you can see out of 120 questions, you can see that like 30% of the questions will be concentrated towards one chapter. And rest all knowledge areas also equally important, because you can see an average of 15 to 12 to 15% average from the other knowledge areas also. So this is also inclusive of techniques. So you can see in BABOK, the structure is that like you have 6 knowledge areas and then techniques all together, right? All the 50 techniques. So this, what you see here, the percentage is also inclusive of the techniques. And there are other 2 chapters, competencies and perspectives. Perspectives, you can completely avoid it because it is not at all important from the exam point of view. But at the same time, let me put a disclaimer. But if you read perspectives, you will be able to understand like how you can contribute in BPM projects or how you can contribute in agile projects. So that is something that can help you in clearing the interviews. So those folks who lack any project experience working in BPM or ETL projects, data warehousing projects, I would definitely recommend you to go through those perspective chapters in order to understand the tools, applications, process, everything is mentioned in a lot of information is there in that perspectives chapter that can help you in understanding more about how to apply BA techniques. But from exam point of view, you guys need not concentrate on the perspectives. Competencies, there is one chapter that talks about the soft skills like leadership skills, communication skills. You can expect some 2 or 3 questions from that chapter, but that you can take an educated guess. So maybe you can skim through the contents. So when you start approaching reading BABOK, right, start concentrating on the 6 knowledge areas, and from there, after you complete all the 6 knowledge areas, then you can go through the technique session. So let me address the first point. 500 pages. I may get lost. So I don't know how many pages should I study per day. So let me address. Don't imagine that like, or don't take it in a way that like I have to completely go through all the 600 pages only, then I'll be able to go. Don't have that thought. Enjoy the reading process. So like what I would recommend you is, this is a golden tip and this works 99.99%. Don't read BABOK. I want you to like very moment when you, don't read BABOK in sense, not just like way how you read literature or science fiction books, right? Not in that way. I want you to immerse yourself in that BABOK experience. How do you do it? I want you all to visualize. So, for instance, first chapter, business analysis, planning, and monitoring. I want you to visualize yourself as a BA who is joining a project, and everybody is confused there in order to choose whether it is waterfall or agile. They don't know what to choose. So imagine BAPM, first task is to define BA approach. So you have to imagine that, like, okay, I am going there and I'm telling them like agile is the best or adaptive methodology is the best, and you will have to give out your reasons, and then you're preparing your deliverables, and then the next thing is you have to prepare the stakeholders list. So this is the only method that works 99.9%. Don't just simply read, rather try to visualize all the concepts and try to connect the dots. The way how BABOK is written, 80% of the time, previous output is the input for the next task. So only when you understand the previous task, that is like first task, define B approach. So in B approach, you have to create a document wherein you will have to tell which method is the best, waterfall or agile, what are all the deliverables, what are all the meetings you will have, because the deliverables of waterfall method and agile methods are different. So only when you understand it completely, only then when you go to the next task, stakeholder engagement approach, BA approach is used as an input. So this is how you need to connect the dots and then work out. So I'll be explaining about it in detail. And as you all know, duration of the exam is 3.5 hours. Your time management skills will be tested. I'll tell you openly. First 2 or 3 questions, when you see, right, it will be very tough. Almost all those folks who gave the exam recently, they told me like the first question was okay, but second, third, and fourth question, it was very tough. Wherein they were not able to decode what were they asking. That is like a typical psychological level of the way how the questions are framed. That is a psychological test in order to check your because if you go for GMAT or any competitive examination, this is how they plan it. That is like first questions, they will keep it on a little bit of a complex questions, they'll plan it in order to test your memory and other stuffs, right, in order to test your intelligence. That's the way how it's planted. So whenever you see any difficult questions in the first 2 or 3 in the first section, don't get I would say don't get disheartened, or like don't get into that anxiety loop or anything. Better you bookmark it and come back and revisit it later. And almost everyone who have told me I mean, those who have given the examination have told me that time is like okay, we were able to complete it within the defined time. But some folks, they were not able to clear it because all you get is 120 questions. So maximum you will have only 2 minutes to 2 minutes to answer one question. So you guys need to be very careful about the time, especially for scenario based questions and case study based questions, because you cannot sit there and think like which knowledge area it is, what is the task, what is the input, what is the output. So if you guys are like not, if your preparation level is not that intense, then you may waste your time. You may take 2 to 3 minutes to find out the knowledge area, another 1 minute to find out the input, and another 1 minute to find out the output. So in that case, you may spend over 5 or 6 minutes for a single question. So don't fall into that trap. Whenever you practice more questions, try to ensure that like you don't spend more than 2 minutes to answer that question, especially for scenario based questions. And there is no negative marking, and IIBA has officially not given us like what is the score, that is like out of 120 questions, how many questions should you get it right in order to pass the certification. That data is not officially available. But when we looked into the score report of those folks who gave the examination recently, you will not get the score out of 120. What is your score? That will not be visible, but rather you will know the score for individual knowledge area. So all the 6 knowledge areas you need to have comparable, or if or it, you will have 3 status: comparable, higher, or lower, something of that sort. So you need to score minimum comparable in all the 6 knowledge areas. So in case if you're scoring lower in 2 of the knowledge areas, you may have to reattend the certification. So my suggestion is, don't go through don't focus on like I have to get 90 questions correct, 100 questions. Don't fall into that trap. Rather, you give equal attention to all the 6 knowledge areas and try to score 80% in all the knowledge areas. So for instance, elicitation, collaboration, if there are 20 questions, at least 16 to 17 questions you will have to get it right. So that's all about it. So now let us talk about the tips. So before I go to the tips part, let me tell you my CBAP preparation, what really happened. Because and I'll just want to tell you, you cannot learn from my experience, because everybody is unique and everybody's learning style and everything, situations are different. So if I tell you that like I took 10 weeks to study, it may work for you, it may not work for you, because it all depends upon your personal commitments plus your work deliverables, everything. I mean, the external factors can influence your preparation. So that is what. So there is no short strategy. If somebody says that like I can make you pass within 1 month, 2 months, don't believe into all those things, because nobody can better tell you like what is your intellectual capacity, what works for you. You are the only person who can find it out. So when I went for the certification, I came up with a 3 month timeline. I thought that like 3 months time, since I've already cleared CCBA, I had this confidence that like I'll be able to clear this also. So I thought 3 months is more than enough for me to go through BABOK. And first month, I simply wasted my time just by reading the contents. I was just simply reading it. I was not able to connect the dots. I was just simply reading with the confidence that like maybe 2 or 3 times if I read, I'll be able to understand the concept. So first month I wasted going through all the sections. And second month during I was like recalling what I learned and everything, but I was not able to recall any of the concepts. I was not able to remember the inputs. I was not able to tell somebody like what did I learn. So I wasted my entire 2 months simply just simply going through the content without understanding the significance or without understanding the importance. I was just simply skimming through the book. So 10 days before the examination, the same saga continued, and I didn't know what to do. And 5 days before the certification, I was still in that stage wherein I didn't know what. I was like completely, I had that feeling also, and I couldn't reschedule also. So that thing, and this was sponsored by my firm, so I had no option to reschedule also. So like last 5 days before the certification, I thought like the strategies which I had timetable, it is all not going to work. So what I did is like 5 days before the examination, I opened BABOK, I took a printout of the BABOK and I sat with it, and then I started this. I harnessed the power of visualization. Every page, every task, every technique, whatever I read from BABOK, I started visualizing. For instance, if it is a brainstorming, I'll close my eyes and I'll just think about there are 12 steps in brainstorming, right from preparing the agenda till the last step, summarizing the results in BABOK. So I'll close my eyes and then I'll visualize that like what if I'm doing the same thing in my project. So within a single reading, I was able to pass on that message to my brain, and to, I mean, I was able to connect, I was able to understand it better. So 3 days I went through all the 6 knowledge areas, and fourth day I gave the mock and I scored around 60%. And then I understood the areas of improvement. And then what I did is I started practicing input, output, and what is the input and output for each of the task. The reason why I was concentrating on input and output is input and output. If you know the input and output of each task, right, it is easier for you to approach the questions, because if it is a scenario based questions, you will not know. They will not give you a clue. This is from the solution evaluation knowledge area. They will not give you a clue. So the questions will be of this format. Thomas is Thomas is working as a senior business analyst in Acme Corporation, and Thomas is working on a task wherein there is a solution that is implemented in the production, and Thomas is finding out the response time for that particular solution. So response time variance was found to be 5 seconds. So Thomas wants to find out like what is the root cause of it. So that is the question, and nowhere in the question they will give you a clue whether it is a which knowledge area it is about. So whenever you will have to look for the keywords in that question. So the keyword which I found out is there is a solution that is already implemented and he's trying to find out the variance. So immediately I need to know that like this is from the solution evaluation knowledge area and this is from analyze performance measure task. So then when you're able to recollect it, immediately you should know analyze performance measure, what is the input. So analyze performance measure, the input is solution performance measures. Likewise, you will have to train your brain in that way. Within second you will have to process that, synthesize and process that information, and you have to know what is the input and output, because only when you know the input and output you will be like you'll not be wasting your time. So within 2 minutes you will be able to find out the answer. But if you are not sure about the input and output of each other task, then you will be wasting your 3 or 4 5 minutes it may go. So I realized it after my first mock that I was not clear about the input and output of the task. So next 6 hours I concentrated on and I didn't memorize the input and output. I went through the concept, and I was very moment when you give me the situation, I know what should be the input. That's how I prepared. I didn't memorize. I will never advocate anyone to like memorize, mug up. Those all things is not going to work, because if you rely on mugging up all the inputs and outputs on the actual examination, because of the stress, you will go completely blank. But at the same time, if you can tell me, like for instance, strategy analysis, define current state, what is the input? You guys should know that like once you join the firm as a strategy consultant, the business need is the only trigger for the project. So business need is the input. So I may not give you all the three inputs, but I know business need is one of the input. That level of preparation is what you need to do. So I spent another 6 hours to go through all the inputs and outputs, and the next day, examination day, and I completed. I had that much confidence on me. I completed this CBAP examination within 1.5 hours. And I thought that like I went super fast. So I took another half an hour. I reviewed all the answers, and within 2 hours, I completed the certification. And I scored higher in almost all the 6 knowledge areas also. So with that confidence, whatever I have learned, I have imbibed that to all those folks who have reached out to me to clear the certification, and almost everybody who have like almost, there is no, I would say 100% is what I feel, that like whoever like got my inputs, they've also cleared the certification. So with that thing, let me start with 7 useful tips to clear CBAP. First, you need to understand, unlike other certification, this certification is a competency based certification. You cannot simply mug up all the concepts and rely that like if there will be straightforward questions. Earlier CCBA questions were like quite straightforward, but right from 2020 they have changed it also. Now you cannot expect straightforward questions in CCBA also. So let me give you an example. What is a straightforward question? So straightforward question in CCBA earlier, before 2020, it used to be like this: what is the input for analyze performance measure? And then they will give you 4 options. This is how straightforward questions used to be in CCBA. But now, after, in the proctored examination setup, the same question is replaced. Thomas is working as a business analyst, and Thomas was analyzing those performance measures. What do you think should be the input? So they will ask you in between on the scenario based, they will ask you like what should be the input, or what should be the document which he should be carrying, or what should be the technique which he should be following in this case. So these kind of questions, they test your intelligence, they test the way how you are prepared and everything, right? So the main thing is that when you go for other certification, I'm not naming it, other certifications, it is all like you have to mug up all those like 10 principles, 15 principles, and then you will go and sit in the examination. It will be straightforward from the book. They will ask you in the fill in the blanks, and you will have to fill it. When you're preparing for CCB and CBAP, completely forget that like this certification is not testing your memory or your intelligence. This certification tests your actual BA skills. That is, how can you synthesize or how can you process the information which is mentioned in BABOK. So always understand that like in the strategy which you had followed in your school college days, right, that is not going to work for CCBA and CBAP, because there you just relied on like I'll mug up, I'll completely go through only the important concepts. That strategy is not going to work, because in BABOK for CCBA and CBAP, any any line in the paragraph, or somewhere some instances from the paragraph will be taken, and it will be converted into a scenario based questions. Those folks who are preparing the questions for this question bank, right, CCB and CBAP, I don't know, it will be definitely a senior business analyst only. Those guys, they are adept at their skill. They know that like which all questions can trump us and everything, right? They will take any one particular line from BABOK, and that one line can be converted into a 2 pages question in the actual case study based question. It can go for a 2 page question. They will give you a lot of data, and then they will ask you, as a business analyst, what will you do in this situation? So that's the reason. Understand, this is how, when you start reading BABOK, don't imagine that like they are not going to test your knowledge. They are not going to ask you like what is the input, what they want you as a BA, what will you do in the situation? As a business analyst, what should be the input? As a business analyst, what do you think would be the best technique? This is how the question style of IIBA is all about. Don't focus on like mugging up, or don't focusing on memorizing all the input output guidelines techniques. That is not going to work. 6 knowledge areas, 30 plus tasks, and 30 into 4, 120 plus inputs and outputs. Do you think it will you be, I mean, you are not a robot in order to go through memorizing all of it, right? So don't rely on that technique. Rather, enjoy your process, concentrate more on that visualization, try to connect the dots. In BABOK, everywhere there is a clue. Everywhere, every task there is a clue, and once you understand that clue, you will be able to connect it with other tasks or other related techniques and everything. So I try to find out all the hidden clues in the book. So this is my first tip. My second tip, don't concentrate on that. Like there are so many theories that are floating around in the LinkedIn or in the website that like if you read it 5 times, you'll be able to clear. If you read it 10 times, you'll be able to clear. So let me repeat it again. It doesn't depend upon the number of times you read. There are folks, recently, one of the person, she just, she was, she was completely held up with work and everything, and she was not able to concentrate. She just read BABOK only one time, and her preparation was like for a week, and she was able to clear the certification, I mean, in flying colors. At the same time, I know some folks who are like preparing for BABOK for 1 year, 2 year, because they are not able to concentrate. So it doesn't, your number of times you read is not going to help you in your certification. 2 times, 3 times, nobody can tell, because you're the one, you know what is your comfort zone, you know what is your intellectual capacity. You are the only person who can tell you what works for you, what doesn't work for you. So come up with a plan that works. For instance, you read first knowledge area, and then you ask yourself like, what did you learn from it, or how can you apply it in your current project? So if you are able to tell me that like all the 5 tasks can be applied to your current project, then in that case 80% you have, you are like 80% you know what is BAPM. Likewise, all the 6 knowledge areas, try to find out like how you can connect to your real world projects and how you can incorporate it. So this is like one of the strategy which I would recommend. And don't rely like 5 times if I read, or like every day 2 hours I spend. I mean, this is what I hear from many of my students. They say every day 2 hours I study, I'll be able to clear every day, or every weekend 2 hours, 6 hours. See, this hours and everything is not going to help you in any way. You will have to know that like once you read it, are you able to relate it? So you read BAPM now. After 6 weeks, I'm asking you what is the input for BA governance. So you should be in a position to tell me like BA governance, you need BA governance comes before BA information management plus BA approach. So BA information management and BA approach is there. And in governance document, I also write down rules about the prioritization, or who will have access to the particular folder, BA deliverables. That kind of reasoning you will have to provide. If somebody is asking you, this is how you have to be like this much, within seconds, you will have to tell me what happens in that particular phase. What is the key things? Is it a document or is it an activity? That kind of preparation. So that's why I was stressing the point. I mean, don't get bogged down by the number of pages. Rather, concentrate on how you can visualize it and try to remember or connect the dots. So this is my second tip. Don't fall into the trap. 4 times, 5 times I read, I'll be able to clear. Nothing of that sort. Even if you read it 100 times, you will not be, unless you understand the concept, you are not going to clear. This is the third tip. So this tip is for those folks who have more than 10 years of experience. I mean, the problem with those folks, like many folks with senior business analysts, right? They will say that like I have 10 years of experience, I can easily clear CBAP. I can easily answer all the scenario-based questions. But if you notice, those folks with minimum 3 or 4 years of experience, they will be able to clear the certification. But folks with 10 years of experience, they will not be able to clear it in their first attempt. It is because of their overconfidence. Why? Because IIBA wants, for all the scenario based questions, IIBA wants you to choose the answer that is right according to the context of BABOK. So if in BABOK, if IIBA said that like in this situation you will have to do this, IIBA wants you to choose the same answer in the actual examination. But what happens is, with that overconfidence, the senior business analysts, they think that like, no, this is not the way. In my project, I used to do this only. Project manager is the person who works on the risk register. Business analyst doesn't work on. But in IIBA, there is a chapter called risk register, wherein a BA has to take care of the risk and document it. But in the actual real world IT scenario, IT projects, risk is something that is the headache of a project manager, and we don't normally involve. So if there is a scenario based question on the risk thing, and if there is an option called as business analyst or project manager, IIBA wants you to choose business analyst only. But what happens if you rely on your actual work experience? Then you will click on the project manager, and you may assume that like for all the scenario based questions I chose the right answer. But what happens is in the backend, all your answers will be wrong according to the IIBA BABOK. So that's the reason why many folks, they are not able to clear BABOK in their first attempt. Don't rely on your work experience, don't rely on like your real world BA experience, because if you rely on that, you will not be able to clear the certification. Whatever you have, whatever you know about business analysis, just keep it aside. Go through the concepts that are mentioned in BABOK and try to unlearn or anything, relearn or anything, whatever you want, you unlearn it. And from the exam perspective, you will have to choose only the answer that is right according to the scenario based question. I mean, according to the BABOK, any scenario based question, I want you to choose the right answer which would work well with the concept that is mentioned in BABOK and not in the real world. Completely forget about what is happening in the real world. Concentrate only on BABOK context. Yeah, in BABOK context it is mentioned. Let me give you an example. So in BABOK RADD chapter, in one paragraph, there is a reference that like the priority of the requirements. It depends if there is any requirement that is considered as technically complex, those requirements should be prioritized and it should be moved to the top of the priority list. So this statement will come, I mean, I got this question. So this statement can come to you as more of like a scenario based question. In the scenario based question, if they are asking you in the actual examination, they will give you 4 options. So one of the option will be according to IIBA, you will have to prioritize to the top of the backlog. And but in the actual real world scenario, what we do is like we will try to complete all the easier ones and we will take the harder one, I mean the tougher one at the last of, towards the end of the sprint. That is what we do in the real world. So IVA folks, those folks, the question writers, they know that like how many folks will fall into that confirmation bias trap. So out of 4 options, 2 options can be always easily eliminated. For any questions, 2 options will be non-relevant to that question and you can easily eliminate. In other 2 options, first option will be related to BABOK and second option will be related to the real world IT scenarios. So that's where the actual test comes in. So don't fall into that trap. Don't choose that answer for any scenario based question or case study based questions. Don't rely on your actual B experience. Eliminate that option and take an educated guess and go with the BABOK version. So most of those folks, I've seen folks with 10, 20 years of experience also not able to clear CBAP in their first attempt. The only reason is because of their confirmation bias. Practice makes it perfect. So how can I practice? So first you will have to go through the BABOK, understand the concept. And what happens is that like see I went through BABOK, but I went through the techniques also. But without only by going through, I would say your preparation is only 60%. I would recommend you to go with mock exams. And mock exams, the actual IIBA standard mock exams. Not all the vendors have this. Some of the LMS vendors, when I checked their content, it was not actually according to the IIBA standards. You will have to give the exam that is written or prepared accordingly to the IIBA standards. So let me give you an example. I'll recommend 2 resources to you. First one is watermark learning. I mean, that is the best exam mock I have seen. Watermark CBAP learning series. For 1 month, you need to pay $99, but the level of the complexity of the question is like it mirrors to that of actual IIBA questions. Like this is how, like if you are able to complete all the 1200 questions in 1200 questions in watermark learning, you will be able to clear both CCBA and CBAP because you have practiced yourself by attending those questions. So something which I would say that it closely mirrors to that of IIBA way of asking questions is watermark learning. And next one I would recommend you is Techcanvass questions. So Techcanvass has around 1000+ questions, which is like more difficult than the actual examination. So if you can concentrate on clearing the so Techcanvass have their own question bank series also. So you can subscribe to it, and 1000+ questions, if you practice, you are in a better shape. So the reason why I'm asking you to do practice test is because first thing, you will know your areas of improvement, because you may think that like I'll be able to answer any questions, but only when you face some case study based questions, scenario based questions, Only then you will know what kind of understanding you had. So for instance, if there is a question about techniques, and if they're asking you one, they are giving you a scenario, and in that scenario they're asking you which elicitation technique is best for this scenario, wherein all the stakeholders are interspersed geographically across different locations, and what is the best technique in order to do it. So there will be an option like interview, focus group, review, or survey. So only when you understand the concept, so survey is the best technique when the stakeholders are across different geographies. So in that case, you will have to apply that, like, okay, survey is the best technique. Another example, if they're giving you a scenario, stakeholders need to be, you need to facilitate a meeting, and the intent behind that meeting is to generate new ideas, and they are giving you an option like brainstorming, focus group, interview, and review session. So many folks will fall into the trap, and they will click on brainstorming, because we all know brainstorming is for the generation of ideas. But at the same time, focus group is also used for the generation of ideas. Brainstorming is used with all the stakeholders. Focus group, you identify the stakeholders, selected stakeholders, and you will do it. So see, generation of ideas, they can play around, but you'll have to look for the clue in the question. So sometimes somewhere in the question, they would have hidden that, or they would have explicitly mentioned that, like, only SMEs are involved in that particular discussion. So whenever you see the word SMEs and generation of ideas, you need to close your eyes and choose the option as focus group. So these all things you will be able to find out, like your preparation and what level it is. You will be able to test your knowledge skills only by going through this mock examination. So maybe I would recommend take at least 1 or 2 mock exams, and don't get disheartened by seeing your score. So if you first mock exam you may score 50%, next mock exam you will be scoring 70%. So don't get disheartened. Try to see your time management skills also. Within 3 hours, are you able to complete it or not? So that is also a time management, because in the actual examination, hardly they say hardly will be able to control that. Even during the examination also, first 10 or 15 minutes your brain will be supercharged, but later your brain will be like losing the focus and everything. So 2 or 3 times you attend the mock of 3 hours, 3 hours of length, right? You will be training your brain to focus more on like the questions and everything. So that's the reason I'm focusing, I'm stressing this point. Give mock examinations, at least 2 or 3, based on your timelines. But at the same time, don't focus more on the score. But I would recommend, if you can score 70% consistently in 2 of the mock examinations, then go ahead and book the actual examination. Because if you're scoring more than 70%, 100% you'll be able to clear the certification. So that is the first yardstick which I'd say. If you're like scoring 70%, go ahead and book the examination. The next thing is case study based questions. For those folks, CCBA folks, you need not bother about case study based questions, but for CBAP folks, IIBA wants you to process all that information within 2 minutes. So case study based questions, there will be, out of 120 questions, there will be 5 or 6 case study based questions. Each case study will have 5 or 6 questions. That is maybe 5 set of questions, 5 case studies, and each case study will be 5 or 6 questions. And case study can go for 1 page, 2 page, or sometimes it can go for 3 pages also. They can give you an image, they will give you some tables, they will give you a use case diagram, class diagram, sequence diagram, activity diagram. They will give you a lot of information, and then out of that information they want you to answer those 5 questions. So don't get bogged down. As I said, second or third question will be a case study based question, and that is in order to, they want you to break your confidence. That's the reason they always plant it in the second or third question, right? And it's not only not only in CCBA and CBAP, almost all competitive examinations, first 5 questions, it will be very tough in order to test your intelligence. So what I would recommend you is the approach for case study based question. 60 to 70% of the case study based questions can be directly answered without going through the context. So if you see 3 pages, don't waste your time skimming through all the contents. Just see, okay, there is a use case diagram, there is a process flow diagram, and then directly go to the question, because you cannot waste your time in reading the entire context, because you may take 10 or 15 minutes to understand what is mentioned in those paragraphs, and you may get lost in the details. Too much of information and all, right? Too much of details, you may get lost. So whenever you approach any case study based questions, directly go to the question, read the question and understand what is being asked. 60% of the questions can be directly answered without understanding or reading the context. You can directly answer. They may ask you which technique is best or what is the input, what is the output. So 40% of the questions you may have to do some mathematical calculation, like you may have to find out the return on investment. I mean, they do provide you the online calculator option, so you can do that mathematical computation. And for mathematical questions also, there will be at least 6 to 7 questions wherein you will have to do some mathematical computation. And don't fret, for mathematics you just need to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, percentage. So these are the 4 things that will be tested, especially related to the return on investment, subscription cost, and net present value calculation, and PERT estimation. Those kind of questions that you can expect in the case study based questions. But it's simple addition, subtraction, and there is an online calculator provision also. So for case study based questions, don't go through all the content and then finally waste your time. Skip to the read the question, and if you feel you will not be able to answer the question without understanding the context, only then you go ahead and you do that control F, if you can do control F and search, or you can directly skim through the content in order to find that hidden clues in the paragraph. So let me warn you, case study based questions, it can be 2 pages or 3 pages also, and lot of paragraphs, lot of tables will be there. But don't but that will be only 40 odd questions. Rest all 80 questions will be direct questions only. And this is like, it worked for me for both CCBA and CBAP. And this is, I would recommend you, I mean, it's up to you if you want to do this in the actual examination. So I always prefer, I mean, as I said, when I did my first mock, I was able to score 50% because I was not able to recollect input, output. I forgot the task. During the actual examination, I completely, it was all blank. I was not able to recollect and everything. So what I did is, I mean, this would work only when you go to the test center. I'm not sure whether this you can do it in the proctored examination. So in the test center, they provide you a notepad and they give you the pen. And the first 15 minutes, earlier there used to be a mock examination kind of setup wherein Prometric, you can access the Prometric demo examination. So that 15 minutes, you just need to click on that button and you can start writing down all the tasks, and you can start writing down like whatever you recollect about, whatever you can recollect about those knowledge areas, right? For instance, BAPM, define BA approach, stakeholder engagement approach, governance approach, information management approach, BA performance objectives, elicitation, conduct elicitations, prepare for elicitation, and manage stakeholder collaboration. So these all things you already know. But what happens in the actual examination, when you click on the first question, and when you because nowhere they will tell you like which knowledge area it is all about. So when you start thinking for some time, maybe for 10-15 minutes, you will feel that like you completely forgot everything. Especially during the mock examinations, you will be able to relate what I'm telling. So since the questions are in the jumbled way, when we click on the exam, when we click on the question, what happens is like we may lose that confidence, or we may feel that like, oh my god, I forgot everything. So in order to avoid that, I would recommend, and this I got to know from my seniors also, I mean, this is like a classic method of like recollecting the thoughts. And you will have to write down like all the 6 knowledge areas, the input and output, if you can write it. I mean, it is up to you. So I did this practice for 6 hours, that is before the examination. 6 hours I started practicing. I started writing down the input, output, and task of all the 6 knowledge areas within 10 to 15 minutes. I practiced it in earlier it took me 30 minutes. More and more I practiced, I brought it down to 7 to 10 minutes. So 10 minutes, I started writing down the task and everything, so that is more of, I made it more of like an open book. So when I started the actual examination, any question if they ask, I'll try to find out the clue. So if there is a clue like BA information management, okay, then I'll refer my notepad and I'll see BA information management, what is the input? Okay, it is BA approach, BA stakeholder engagement approach. So in that case, I was able, hardly out of 2 minutes, I took only 1 minute to answer that question, because already I was not wasting my time to find out which knowledge area, which task, what is the input and output. Rather, straight away I had that more of like, and I made it more of like an open book examination. I would recommend, it's up to you, it's at your discretion if you guys can, if you have time, because you will lose your first 10 minutes of your question if you are doing this, because in the actual examination. But if you guys are okay that like I need to do a dump, and because later what happens is like any question you can refer it, because you will not forget what if you don't do this. What happens is like high chances you will forget some of the task, or because of the tension and the stress. Only because of the tension and stress, what happens is like that time we may forget it. So in order to avoid all that issues, it's better. I advise this to many folks, and many folks came back and told me this really helped them. You can do what I would recommend is like try to do this technique during your mock examinations, and let me know if it helped you in any way, or if you're not able to make complete use of this technique, just let me know. Maybe we can discuss and check like what is the shortcomings of this, like where it's going wrong. So another thing which I wanted to tell you is don't take more than 2 minutes, and save last 30 minutes for reviewing all 120 answers again. That is very, very important. And the last tips which I wanted to give you is like I would recommend you to go for classroom trainings. If you don't have, if you're not able to understand BABOK concepts, or if you started reading BABOK but you are not able to correlate what they are mentioning, because you don't know how that particular technique is used or why that technique is used, though in that case, anyway, you need to show 35 hours of PDO as part of your application process. Classroom trainings are always good, because during the classroom training, you will talk to a senior BA who has already cleared the certification. That is the first advantage. The second advantage which you have is you can learn from your peers. Your peers will be from diverse and different backgrounds, different nationalities. So everybody will share their experience on that particular technique of what happens in their organization. You can learn about the domain, you can learn. So that provides you the opportunity to learn from other BA's experience. So this is one of the best experiences when you attend the classroom training. And other advantages of, if you, there are two modes, you can go for classroom or online. I mean, online is you can access the recordings for, I mean, almost all the IIBA endorsed training providers, they provide you both the option, both classroom plus access the recordings. But the inherent advantage of going with the classroom is that you can ask your queries, and every weekend or every day, 2 hours, 3 hours, you can talk to the trainer, get all your queries resolved, and you're like every weekend you're spending some time towards the CBAP preparation also, right? So classroom training is also I mean, highly recommended if you want to clear the certification in the first attempt, because you will have focused attention, focused learning also. So with this, I have covered all the 7 useful tips in order to clear CBAP and CCBA in the first attempt. So let me now go through the myths, right? I told you like there are many theories that are floating around in LinkedIn and other portals about this certification. So now let me tell you, first thing is that like, no, I'll not go with CCBA and CBAP, because I need to mug up all the input and output. So once again, this is the third or fourth time I'm repeating this. CBAP and CCBA is not about memorizing and mugging up and all. You need to know what is the input, because for that particular situation, input is the trigger and output is the result. So only when you know that like input and output, only then you will know what you are doing in that particular step. For instance, let's take an example, maybe conducting elicitation. So when you're doing the elicitation, you need to have the elicitation activity plan. Only when you have the plan, you will know what is the agenda, who are all the stakeholders, what questions you are going to ask. Only then you only with that elicitation activity, elicitation activity plan, you will be able to drive the elicitation. So this kind of reasoning is what IIBA wants you to do. It's like, don't fall into the trap that like I need to memorize. If you think that like I need to memorize and everything, then in that case, this certification is not for you. I took a career break, so cannot take CBAP, nothing of that sort. IBA wants 7 years. Last 10 years, your total BA experience is what IBA wants it, IBA accounts for. I need to do ECBA, CCBA before CBAP, nothing of that sort. ECBA is for those fresh out of college graduates and everything, they can do ECBA. If you have 3+ years of experience, go for CCBA. If you have 5-6+ years of experience, you need not do CCBA, you can directly go for CBAP. I have 10 years of experience, I'll easily clear CBAP, nothing of that sort. If you have 10 years of experience, you have to be very careful, because you will not be, if you rely on your confirmation bias, you will not be able to clear. So your years of experience doesn't matter for CBAP at all. 3 years experience can easily clear. 10 years experience, he may not be able to clear. It's provided you don't have any confirmation bias of any sort. It's multiple choice. I can easily take educated guess. Don't fall into that trap. As I said, out of 4 options, 2 options can be easily eliminated. And out of the 2, only when you know the BABOK context, you will be able to choose the right answer. So always remember, you will have to choose the right answer. Or both the answers would look good to you, but you will have to choose the best answer according to the BABOK context. And CBAP certification is tough. No, CBAP certification is not at all tough. 1 week or 1 month, 2 months of preparation is more than enough. CBAP certification is not valued. So this is more of like a gray, the grapes, sour grape story, right? Those folks who are not able to spend their time in certification and all, they will say, why should I do CBAP? I have 15 years of experience in business analysis. I have a domain knowledge. Why should I do a certification? Nothing of that sort. So certification, I'm not telling you that like certification is something that is going to help you in your career process, but I do understand the importance of CBAP certification, because there are at least minimum at least 5 lakh plus business analysts across the world. So if there is anything how you can distinguish yourself from the fellow business analysts, the only method is through the certification, because everybody can learn the domain, with the domain which you think you are like you have 10 years experience in that particular domain. I can learn the same domain within 6 months and I can challenge you. And if you feel that like I have 10 years experience in technical stuffs, I can learn it within 1 month and I can beat you in the same skill. But at the same time, your actual BA skills, your soft skills, your certification skill, this is something which cannot be, I cannot be able to, unless I have the stuff or unless I have the talent, these all things I cannot beat you, your some communication skills or your, so in order to cement your position, so if you're a BA for some particular year, right, some particular years of experience, and in order for your career progression and everything, you should definitely have a certification like CCBA and CBAP. Those are all the most relevant certification recognized by the industry also. It's up to your choice, your career thing and everything. I mean, you may have your own career aspirations, getting into the product management or getting into the project management, but towards that journey, this certification is something that is being going to be like, or let me put it in better words, this can be the gate pass for the desired role or for the desired career shift or anything. This can act as a gate pass. So these are all the common exams, and I wanted to add also, don't rely on all those PDFs like floating as CCBA, CBAP dumps, nothing. There is no official dumps for CCBA or CBAP. You will have to go through BABOK and you will have to understand the concept, and only then you will be able to clear the certification. So with this, I have completed my webinar, and I do believe over this 1 hour, right, I was able to help you understand about CCBA and CBAP, and especially maybe some part of it you will be able to incorporate it in your exam strategy also. So let's have some poll questions, and then we'll go through the questions. So
Thanks,
yeah.
Satish. I just went ahead and launched our first poll. So if everyone can put their answers to what they think is the best answer right in here, we will share what the most popular result is, and then I will share a slide just with the correct result. So I'll just let those answers come in. Few more seconds. And closing. So it looks like everyone was pretty decided on what they thought was the right answer. So I'm going to go ahead and hide that and share my screen. So it looks like everyone was correct. Answer is A, number 6. So I'll go ahead and share the next poll. Oh, Satish, would you like to talk to that answer at all?
Yeah, so we have only 6 knowledge areas, which is BAPM, strategy analysis, elicitation and collaboration, requirement lifecycle management, RADD, and solution evaluation. So 6 knowledge areas. So I'm happy that like almost 80%, 85% of the folks got it right. Over to the next question.
Perfect. Now I know we're a little tight on time, so for everybody who can stick around for the next 3 questions, that's great. but if you have to leave us right now, I understand. So thank you for being with us if you have to leave right now. So I'll just let everybody answer that question. I see we've got a lot of results coming in nice and quickly. A few more seconds. And closing. So it looks like we're a little more divided on this one. Well, let's see who got it right. Was it A, B, or C? Correct answer was B.
Yeah, 50 techniques are fairly simple because if you had listened to this webinar also, I had referenced it 2 times, 50 techniques. So over to the next question.
Launching now. Total number of core concepts mentioned in the BACCM model. It looks like everyone's pretty decided on this one so far.
Yeah.
A few more seconds. And closing. So it looks like the majority of us think that it was A, and I think I saw my screen flash by there for a second, so we got a little preview to the majority of our audience was correct. The answer is A.
Yeah. So changes, solution, context, values, stakeholders, and needs. And very, very important, before each knowledge area, you need to understand the BACCM, and only then you will be able to understand the context. Over to the next question.
Launching now. Which requirements are of temporary nature? Yeah, it looks like we're pretty decided again, and we've got most of our responses already in, so I'll just give it a few more seconds. And closing. So it looks like the majority of the audience thought it was transition requirements. And as you can see from my answer slide over here, you were correct. Answer is C, transition requirements. So Satish, I'll hand it back to you. I know we're a little over time at this point, so I think we'll just be wrapping up with anything we can on this front.
Yeah, so we'll go through the questions.
So we'll go through a few questions right now. Satish, you're showing your screen right now.
Okay, so let me, 1 second.
Perfect. I don't see anything anymore.
Okay. How about now?
Oh, I see just your computer right now.
Okay.
Well, we're just doing Q&A. You don't need to share your screen at this point.
Okay. So let me go through the questions.
Perfect. Well, we are out of time at this point. So
yeah.
Are you okay to stick around a little bit to go through at least 1 or 2 questions?
Yeah.
And we will respond to the other ones.
So the first question, Tirtha, will you share the PPT later? So Tirtha, you can download it from the handout section. So it is available there. You can download the PPT and
I'll pick out a few questions for you, Satish. So one question was, how many times should I read BABOK to clear the CCBA exam?
Okay, so that depends based on the way how you are able to understand the concept. So sometimes 1 reading is enough, or sometimes 2 or 3 readings. So I will never say that, like, I cannot give a finite number. It is based on your understanding of the BABOK concepts.
Okay, second question. How many case study questions can I expect on the CBAP exam?
What was it?
How many case study questions can I expect on the CBAP exam?
Yeah, so minimum 5 to 6 case study based questions, and each question will have 5 or 6 questions. So altogether, it will be 30 to 35 case study based questions.
Okay, and I'll just take one more question as well. So in the exam itself, are you able to go back to the questions later on?
Yes, that option is there. You can bookmark those questions and you can come back and revisit them later.
Okay, well, because that was a quick one, I will ask one more question and then we'll cap it off. I know we're 4 minutes over at this point. Can I do a memory dump during the CBAP exam? Do we get like 2 blank sheets for the exam?
Yes, you can do it. If you're going to the test center, you can do it. But I'm not sure whether if you do it from if you're going by the proctored examination, I'm not sure. But if you go to the test center, they definitely give you a notepad and pen. And once you click on the start button, first 10 minutes of your examination, you can make use of that in order to do a brain tap.
Perfect. Okay, well, that is all the time we have for questions for today. So thank you for your insightful answers, Satish, and I hope everyone enjoyed having a few questions at the end there. Do you have any final words?
Yeah, thank you for your support. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to the Techcanvass support team. I see a lot of questions related to the certification materials and mock questions. You can definitely reach out to the Techcanvass website, and Techcanvass support team will be able to answer your queries.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone who could stick around with us today. So that wraps up our time, and thank you for everyone for some questions, and it's been a pleasure being here with you. Thanks again for joining us today, and we'll see you next time.